All right, I'll call the August 14th, 7 p.m. meeting of the Durham Historic District and Durham Heritage Commission to order. Our first business is call to order. That was that. Now we'll do a roll call. So you all can remind me, we have Charlotte on Zoom. Eric may come in on Zoom, but every vote will have to be roll call. So when I forget that, inevitably I will remind me. Yeah, I know Charlotte will, but so Jennifer, we'll start with you.
All right, Jennifer Becker, alternate.
Michael Hoffman, regular member.
Sally Tobias, Planning Board Rep.
Larry Brookner-Wood, Chair.
Tom Janos, alternate.
Aaron Olson-Suppian, regular member.
Okay, and
Charlotte Hitchcock, Vice Chair on Zoom.
Michael, you want to introduce yourself? I can see you muttering. I can't hear you muttering, but yeah.
He's got to figure his...
It's one of those Zoom things.
Just move your lips so we can read them.
Yeah, you recognize the look when someone's got a Zoom problem.
Not
Hold
if you
the
can
sign.
hear us. Can you hear us? No, you can't hear us.
Well, Michael Barrett, the town planner, is also with us on Zoom. He's
Working on
voiceless
some
at the moment.
Technical
And
difficulties.
Rachel, is Councilor Lund on yet?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me tally up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got one right now. I'm expecting Carolyn, but right now we have, there she is. Hi, Carolyn.
Hello.
We just did our roll call, so we'll let you sit down and you can. So the alternates, because we don't seat you for planning board or town council, you'll be alternates tonight, but as you always do, please feel free to participate. Hello.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. To the adoring public, would you like to just?
Carolyn Singer.
Yeah, who is a member of the commission. All right, seating of alternates. Well, the alternates are seated. Approval of the agenda. Any modifications to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Michael Hoffman.
Mike Hoffman, second. Aaron, okay.
All right, so I can't hear anything. Is that?
That works.
We can hear you now.
We can hear you. Oh,
You can't hear us?
no, you can't hear us still. So you might need to leave.
He was on the phone
You got a
with me.
flip
Let's
phone?
see if we can sort it out.
I think it's a home phone.
Yeah, we'll just ignore you for the time being until
A wireless
you
home
get
phone?
voice.
I didn't even know anybody has those anymore.
Yeah, I know. We can't. We could talk really
Yeah.
smack about them. So we didn't actually vote on that. I assume there's no discussion.
Roll call, yeah.
Yeah, roll call. Mike, we'll go with you.
Okay, Michael Hoffman, yes.
Sally Tobias, yes.
Larry Brookner-Wood, yes.
Carolyn Singer, yes.
Aaron Olson-Suppian, yes.
Charlotte,
Yes.
great. All right, and then approval of the minutes. I didn't see the minutes. I wasn't here in July, but did minutes come? Did they? Okay. Did anyone look at them? I mean, I'll abstain. but-
Briefly.
I didn't see them.
Okay.
No, I didn't see them either. I don't know if they were supposed to come by email.
Yeah, I didn't see them with all the attachments. As you've been wont to do you want to just table it till September?
Yes, I don't see them.
Yeah, they are online, but
They're
I
online.
think that we should just go ahead and table it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an email from July 29th with the May and June minutes.
Okay, the May and June minutes, okay.
No,
In September, we'll put it, let's try to make sure we catch up with minutes. It can get a little confusing, and there's probably a better way to do this, but right now I don't know what that is. So we're going to table approval of minutes. Public comments, opportunity to address the commission on anything that's not on the agenda. So either one of you gentlemen, you know, when we get to the application, you're welcome to come up, but this is just for if someone would, you know, had a comment to make about something we've done or so. I assume there's no one on Zoom, so I'll close the public comment section, there being no one to comment. We have staff report next, but we'll skip over that until Michael gets his voice. All right, item 8, 3941 Main Street, windows and doors. Application to remove all wooden windows and replace them with white vinyl triple glazed windows with an exterior and interior grille. Removal of 43 storm windows. Repairing and repainting of 4 exterior doors. Frank Silva, property owner. Jeff McMath, contractor and applicant. It's map 108, lot 16, and this is continued from the July 10th meeting. You're welcome to come up.
Thank you. Yeah, from the previous meeting, we postponed until tonight, and we had a site walk in the meantime, and went down Main Street to see how many houses had wood, how many houses had vinyl. Michael sent, I think everybody received the email he sent with all the different houses, but you can see on that, starting back in 2000, here and there, houses were okayed for vinyl windows, different years, and also last year in 2024, the last house in his email got 7 vinyl windows. Okay, we're just looking for an even playing field. We'd like to put the triple pane windows in. I had window women of New England up at our windows to look at our windows and to repair our windows and bring them back. And they wouldn't be as efficient as a triple pane window, but it was more expensive than our vinyl windows. Okay, there's 43 windows in the house. This is a rental property for college students. It's not a family-owned house where you have all time to do this stuff. We have to get in and get out. We can't spend weeks. She said she can do 2, possibly 3 windows a day, and that's it. I can do a unit in a day with the windows. But I know you have a policy for the Historical Commission, wood and everything like that. I understand that. I fully understand that. But if nobody else had vinyl windows, I wouldn't be standing here. But the house across the street has vinyl windows. All those new houses from, I don't know if it's 38 or 37 up towards here, those new ones, and one of them being a commercial building, has an insurance company in it, the Red House, they all have vinyl windows, okay? Again, we just want to have an even playing field to be able to put a more efficient window in to help, because, listen, global warming is here and everything, and the wooden windows, yes, those are the original wooden windows. So if the house was built in 1900, they're 125 years old, but they are in terrible shape. She can only do so much. She's not a miracle worker. We're just trying to keep, the cost down for heating the house. The owners pay for the heat and everything, because the house is old. There's one system for the whole house and everything like that. So, and this is the window, which is just like every other basic vinyl window. This one happens to have a full screen on it. The one we were proposing would have a half screen on it, and it's upside down so it wouldn't bend the flange. But this is 6/1. Our windows, there are 2/1. There are 6/6. There's a couple other mongrel ones in there that we can replicate whatever pattern is on those windows. We can replicate and everything. And the owners, they want to spruce the place up. They want to paint it.
You'll need to have a microphone in front of you, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
You
Thanks,
can use
Sally.
the one at the table there if you
Yeah.
want to just put closer to you.
The owners plan on putting money in, sprucing up the house. The last meeting, we got okay to paint it. It's gonna stay white and everything. There's some minor repairs on the railings we were gonna do and everything. So, the only thing we're asking for is be able to use vinyl windows like some of the other people have. I know there's a policy, but it's been broken, and it's been, here and there, wood, vinyl. So,
Okay.
that's basically it.
How many units are in the building, Mr. Silva?
It's four units.
4 units?
Yeah, it's a duplex, side by side,
Okay.
upstairs, downstairs, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Jeff.
Okay.
Excuse me, this is Jeff, right?
Oh, that's Jeff.
You, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, Frank is the owner of the property.
Oh, it's good. I assumed you were the owner. Okay.
No, I'm the contractor, and
Okay.
I've been contracted to do three phases in the building, and this was the first phase. Okay, the second phase is inside the house, and then next year, another phase to do major renovation inside the house. So they plan on putting some significant money in, but we gotta save what we can just to do the whole project.
Yeah.
All right, and Window Woman of New England should come up, should weather strip them, all right, do new sash cords in them and everything, but she doesn't, if she paints the windows, she has to take out the
Hello?
sashes.
Hello?
Hello?
Yep, you're coming, oh, sorry about that, it's our planner on his
Oh,
phone.
he's gone, sorry, never mind.
Just testing his connection.
Yeah, he's having issues. Anyways, continue on.
Go ahead.
So
Jeff.
she would have to take the windows out, bring them back to her shop, which is considerable more time. And that's not included in the price that is now, it's probably about $8,000 more than the vinyl windows going in. All right, the way to insulate them and put the new sash cords in and put all new storm windows on. But still, it's not as efficient as a triple pane window. And that's what we're looking for. That's our main thing. And basically, actually, I have that backwards, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's the
I'm
interior
sorry.
view, yeah.
How many windows does that 8,000 cover? Is that all of the windows for the entire building or
It's 43 windows.
43 windows?
Yeah.
What about the,
I'm sorry.
if you're replacing the windows, you'd have to put storms on. What about the cost of the storms?
The storms and her doing her work is $8,000
Oh, okay,
more.
okay.
All right. And the storm, if she was just to do the insulation of the windows, to make it insulated and everything, the storms aren't really, they're in bad shape. They're old, you saw them,
Yeah,
you were at the
yeah.
walk and everything.
Now, that's a 1/4 window. What are you proposing on the building as far as the?
Right now, majority of the windows are 2/1. The flanker windows on the 4 bays are 1/1. Up on the 3rd floor, there's some smaller windows. It could even be a 6/6. There's a couple other different patterns up there on the 2nd and 3rd, on the 3rd floor that we can duplicate to make it look the same.
So you'd be willing to go 6/6 throughout?
If it's 10/10, we'll go 10/10,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, and that's a new installation window. It's got the nailing flange.
Yeah, that's
Are
a
you-
new one. That's just a
Okay,
a
you're
vinyl
not
window they
residing
got
the
to
whole
show.
building or anything?
Yeah, you're only gonna see,
Yeah, so
that's what
you're doing.
that's what you're gonna see right there, which is no different than any other window on the street you see.
Right, so you're doing vinyl replacement, you're not doing
Yeah, we take
new.
the windows out from inside, we take the weights out of the window, the window cavity.
Yeah.
We fill the window cavity with insulation. We slide those in and put new stops on the inside. And then, no need for the triple pane, no need for the storm windows on the outside.
Right, right. And you said you'd be using half screen instead of full screen, did you
We'll be
say?
using half screen. That way, the house isn't insulated,
Yeah,
all right? You can lift the screen up and put a air conditioner through the window.
yep, yep. And that seems to not actually have a grill on the exterior, it just seems to be in between the glass, is
We're
that
gonna put
right?
a grill on the outside and a grill in between the glass.
Okay, so that's not really
No,
representative.
again, this is just a model they have
Yeah,
at
okay.
the place.
Okay,
Okay.
And I was told I don't need to put one inside the house
Yeah.
on the glass.
Thank you. Mr. Silva, do you have anything to add?
I know.
Okay.
Thank
Okay. Any questions for Jeff?
I guess just to clarify, so the cost of refurbishing the windows, the existing windows, is $8,000 more than the cost of replacing with vinyl? So you have X amount for vinyl,
Yeah, X amount for vinyl.
and if
It's refurbished with new,
would be
Storm
plus,
windows.
that cost plus $8,000.
right.
And you would be required, you would need to put the storms on. Would you be putting new storms on? You wouldn't be putting the older storms on, would you?
No, if
So you-
they were refurbished,
And that's part of
it's
it.
refurbished, the storms come off, new storms come on. And that total is
Included,
$8,000
okay.
more, but that is not painting the sash. If you want to paint the sash, we can have the sashes painted, basically it's $100 a sash. That would be another $4,300 for the cost. All right, if a window woman does it, she takes it back, she strips it and repaints it. I don't even want to know what the price is.
So painting would basically add about 12 grand more?
Yes. So we have to,
Somebody's gonna have to paint them.
we're trying to find out if we have to pivot or not, because all the money allocated to the windows would now be allocated to inside the house, to do work inside the house.
Any other questions? Charlotte, do you have any questions?
I don't. I have, of course, comments, but not
Yeah,
questions.
definitely, yeah. Michael, do we have you on?
He can hear.
Yes, finally, thank you.
All right.
Technology is working.
Michael, do you have any questions for Jeff?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. Other questions may come up, Jeff, and we'll definitely
problem.
ask those. And you're welcome to sit there or back with Frank. So, all right, I'll open it up.
Well, my sense is there is a mixed bag of vinyl and wood. And from the street appearance, the windows that have an exterior grille without a storm window are more appealing and more historic looking. Otherwise, it looks like a poorly maintained 1960s vintage house with the raw aluminum storm windows that are, and it is a hodgepodge. There are 6/6s. I saw 1/1, 1/2, all that thrown in there because apparently they've been repaired over different time periods of time. It would be, in my opinion, much better looking if the windows were consistent throughout the building, or at least had some flow to them. Since we have permitted them in a number of cases, and some were, we almost felt like we're peeping Toms looking at windows. We had to get that close to really determine,
Looking in.
is this vinyl or is this wood? And I think we have to be somewhat sensitive to the fact that people have to be able to maintain their property for a reasonable cost. And it becomes a burden to the point that people can't afford to do the windows, so they don't, and then it looks like it's not well maintained. And at the same time, we want people to be energy efficient and not wasting energy. So I personally think that it would be, with an exterior grille and a 6/6 or a 2/2 pattern, something of that sort, it would look much better than it does now. And just as storm windows are removable, so are vinyl replacement windows. They can be replaced.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my position.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Tom?
Yeah, I feel the same with Mike on this. If anything, if we want to look at ugly, just look right over here at the courthouse. That thing to me is ugly. Get those damn storm windows off of there. Why do we have them up there? I don't know what the question is.
I'll ask the town.
I can answer that.
You can answer the question?
Yeah.
Why?
Storm windows.
They didn't have them in the 1800s, that's the thing.
That's correct.
Yeah.
If you go to any historic site, they have windows, they have storm windows to protect the historic windows. The historic windows, or the windows of a house, are considered sort of permanent, whereas storm windows are not considered permanent. And
But-
I'd like to remind everybody here that our job is to protect the historical integrity of the historic district. I'm not sure cost, figures that much into the equation. We have a job to do. And I would also like to say that, perhaps at some point we should have another camp training on these particular issues.
Okay. Charlotte?
Yes, well, We did quite a bit of research in addition to the site walk, interviews with some of the people who were on the Historic District Commission, especially Nancy Sandberg. And she explained that when they first, well, you know, the district only was established in 1980, which historically is modern times. And in the first few years, they struggled with the question of what people could do. And so some windows were replaced with vinyl in those early years. And then the commission developed a policy which had been observed most of the, pretty much since then, that windows can be restored. They cannot be demolished if they're existing original windows. They need to be restored. Or in some cases where they're in really bad shape, they may be replaced with a very high quality wood window with a cladding and with grills inside, outside, and between the glazing, such as Marvin windows, which are the sort of top of the best known example that have been accepted. And so the policy was established that those are the possibilities. You restore or you replace with a new product that's made of wood and has the same kind of divided lights as the original. The policy is not to accept vinyl windows. And I'd also like to point out that if you restore your wood windows, they'll last another 100 years, whereas vinyl has a limited lifespan, and after a while it degrades, and then you're back to something that's leaking and cracking, and you have to do it over again. So actually, restoring your wood windows is a long-term benefit. And as Carolyn said, our job is to protect the original material, and our guidelines, our definition of our zoning overlay specifically says that you do not demolish original material in a building, and that you do follow the Secretary of the Interior standards, which is basically what the policy that the commission developed was following the Secretary of the Interior standards. So we really are not, it's not our business to approve the vinyl windows. Our business is to protect the windows that are there.
Thank you, Charlotte. Michael, can you hear me? The policy that Nancy raised, have you seen that, or does it exist in a written form anywhere?
I'm not aware of any. I mean, I saw the email from Nancy, but I haven't seen the written policy in any form regarding windows other than that.
Okay, thank you. Other folks?
I'll just add my 2 cents for what it's worth.
Thanks.
I mean, touring the hill, it did seem like there was a mishmash. It depended, I mean, even in separate buildings, had all of it. I mean, it depended upon what building you were looking at, and maybe over time they had been replaced in different times, but it was mixed. So I couldn't see a specific policy, and some of them are fairly recent, not since 1980, but are fairly recent. So it did strike me as like, so what does this tell me? I did note that the storms, from my opinion, and I understand the storms are there to protect the original windows, but the storms are really detract from the look, and actually detract from the original look of the windows in the first place. I guess the best case scenario would be wood windows that had higher values for keeping cold in and cold out and heat in, but that's not what we have. So I just didn't see, and I haven't seen any policies or anything that would make people know that this is what their expectation was. And that's the thing that concerns me, is that you go into the zoning and you find out what you can do and what you can't do, and there should be very clear guidelines as to what you can and what kind of products you can use, and how, who you can use and what you can't use, and whatever. I just think that has to be clear to everyone, And that perhaps going forward, something like that should be created so that everybody that owns property in the district is aware from here on, this is what you need to do. But I don't personally think that it is right to enforce something that doesn't feel like it's been unilaterally enforced. And that's my concern. If I had seen that, and everywhere I looked, there was, refurbished windows, but that's not what I saw. And, but I would recommend either way, getting this down, getting whatever policy may exist, getting it written down and getting it disseminated out into the public and letting property owners know, from this day forward. But it should, go through the proper channels, that this is what you have to be doing. And I am concerned that one thing that did strike me going through the Churchill in particular was these are all our historic buildings. But they are some of the buildings aren't in great shape. They're not, and you can see maintenance slippages, and they haven't been maintained, and that may be because they are being rented out to college students. And I would just say to the owners is that whether they're rented out to college students or not, it would be, we understand, that it would be great if we could start renting to non-college students, but that'll probably happen as the college students disappear. But the quality of the building will matter too, going forward. But when you see a property owner starting to pay attention to the property and actually be willing to put time and money into it, it certainly needs painting, and you can see where many of the properties need painting. And it's a shame when you see these properties not maintained. So if we put a burden on anyone who's willing to do it without having the proper teeth to back up why we're doing it, I'm not comfortable with that. So.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you. Jennifer.
Just a couple of things that I kind of wanted to throw out there, because there have been a lot of good points. One of the things is about the policies being written down, which I agree with you, Sally, should totally happen. I would say, though, that it's a historic district, and it's like when you tell somebody, I live in an HOA, or there's this great house for sale, but it's in an HOA, people go, oh, HOAs, God, no, because they know that there's a certain expectation of rules that goes along with it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like historic districts kind of fall under that. Most people know when you are looking at homes or to buy property in a historic district, there's going to be expectations that come along with that, just like in an HOA. And I think just both things are true. There's a little bit of responsibility in both places. And I think it's a really interesting point about climate change and energy efficiency, and how do we, looking forward, accept that we are moving into a time and a place where some of the materials that we've used in the past may no longer be adequate because of energy and the climate. So I don't have any answers for that, but it's definitely something that, because I think energy efficiency and climate change is going to be something that's just going to keep coming up. So.
Thank you. Jeff, did you have something to add?
As far as what you just said, it's true. As of last week, tariffs can make the wooden windows go through the roof. Okay, yeah. Look at the way the country's being run now, okay? They're drilling on national parks. Things are changing, okay? And yes, I understand the historic part. I'm not from here, I'm not from Durham. 3941, the greenhouse across the street, across Main Street. Vinyl windows. Doesn't look any more historical than our house, okay? The house beside us, I was mistaken. I thought the house was moved back and the front was new. It was moved forward and the back is new, okay? No more historical looking than ours, and I'm pretty sure there was all vinyl windows in the back of that house.
They are.
Like I said, we just want an even playing field. I understand there was a policy The policy's been deviated over the years, numerous times. What I think you would have to do is, do people have town meetings here? Is that what you have?
No, we
No.
we have a town council. form
Okay,
to go.
you'd have to bring it in front of the town council and say, as of September 1st, 2025, vinyl is it, and that's it. And that has to be adopted and put in. But we've had open meetings about this now. We should be grandfathered in with everybody else who has the vinyl windows.
Thank you. Anyone can answer this, but Michael, so Michael, the information you sent us about the different properties in the district, at least on Main Street, the building right next door used to be the Grange Hall, is 37 Main Street, right? You didn't mark it as having wooden windows. What are the windows on the front? Does anyone know?
They're vinyl.
They're vinyl? Okay, that's what I thought.
Well, are the storms vinyl or are the windows? There's a difference.
If there's a vinyl window, there usually is not a storm window in front of it.
Right.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah, I believe
you're
there's
seeing a clear
aluminum
shot.
storms with wooden sashes. But I will say too, with the 200-year-old windows, that old growth pine was much more rot resistant than, I've got a 30-year-old wood window that's rotting, and I've got a 200-year-old window that's not. The wood sashes do take a lot more upkeep. You've got to keep painting over the glazing compound or it chips out, the sun dries it out. So there is a maintenance factor associated with it, and unfortunately moisture does build up behind storm windows. They do have weep holes, but a lot of people think it's great to caulk all around and don't allow the moisture out. Storm windows don't always do a great job of protecting. Sometimes they cause rot in the sill, and I've got examples of that in my house. So again, it's the old sash. I would save it. I would not throw it in a dumpster. I would do something of that sort, but it's already a mishmash in there, and it doesn't look good as a mishmash. There's 3 different style of windows. It's often said that windows are the eyes of a building, and when you look at a building, especially 1/1s or just big old gaping openings, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look right. There's that nice, and I like the ratio, that golden ratio of a rectangular window, that rectangular, not squares so much, but that looks right. And certainly storm windows hide all of that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the historic overlay district ordinance, and right at the top, there's of course what was referenced by Carolyn and Charlotte about protecting and preserving, but there's also bullet D is protecting and enhancing the attractiveness of the overlay district, and it's my opinion, at least in this instance, that the windows that are there are not attractive, and although vinyl, I think these would be an improvement to the overall curb appeal and attractiveness of this building. I think it's our responsibility as the HDC not to necessarily just enforce things potentially as written, because that we have a commission, I think, to more interpret and take things case by case. This is an instance of that.
But it's taking case by case that has made enforcement somewhat inconsistent. And again, I'm sorry, we have a job to do, and a lot of this is not applicable.
Well, let me just say this. I just did a word search for window in our ordinance. We've had 14 occurrences. Nowhere did it say they have to be wood windows. It doesn't say that in our ordinance. No, there might be some positions and policies, but our ordinance really
Well-
trumps what people have thought. This is what is adopted by the town,
But
is
you're
the
al-
ordinance.
But you're also saying that these historic windows, even the, wood historic windows don't look right. Well, they're historic.
Not when it's mishmash, yeah, right. Not-
They're old,
Not
that's
when it's
all
a
it is.
mishmash of windows. That is what I'm saying, is it looks like it was haphazardly repaired as needed over the years. And a 1/1 was cheaper than a 6/6. And so some got replaced and some didn't. And that may have happened in the 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, whatever. But it ended up being that it's not a it's just not a good look as
But-
far
but
as being
it's-
consistent.
It's historic. That's what we have inherited in the district. So you want to change it to something modern and phony. So I'm not going to say any more. I just think that we need training on what our job is.
Well, I think we have to follow our ordinances.
Larry, one thing I wanted to say here. As you know, I own property in the district, okay? I don't know if in the past, did you ever do anything like this? Because I never did receive anything. I know I was in the historic district, like Carolyn mentioned. But no one from the town sent me a letter to indicate what is my requirements, okay? Nobody. So starting with me and my problems, I had a branch that was growing right over the building. The insurance company will not insure me with their branch. It was a huge branch. I was going to take it out myself with a buddy of mine. I started, and who came but Michael Barrett? And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm taking a branch down, because if I don't take it down, I'm not getting insurance on this building. They won't insure me." "Well, we have to have the tree inspector, or whatever they call, and come over and look at this." I said, "Michael, I don't care if he comes and looks at it. I'm still taking it down, period, because I won't get insurance. That's the way it goes." So you see what I'm saying is, there should be when people buy a property in the district, a letter or whatever goes out and says, these are the requirements. Never received this. Does anyone else receive anything like this? Carolyn, do you know anything about this?
I don't know, but I believe that we were told that people do get something when they
Well,
move
I
into
guess they
the
must have
district.
forgot about me, because I didn't get one. I know a lot of other people.
That's newly instituted, that we're sending people something. That was something we discussed, and we said that they should be notified.
I know of
So
other
that's
people that have
last
no
few
But-
years.
but that was-
recollection of
Most
anything
real
either.
estate agents should also be informing their buyers about the properties, because I know when I've sold homes in HOAs and in like certain parks and stuff, it's on me as the agent to make sure that my clients know, okay, if you move in here, like these are the policies. So, you're not allowed to have a dog. You have to do X,
Right.
Y, or Z. You can't have a shed. You can't do, you know what I mean? And it
I
was
know.
on me
Yep.
as the agent facilitating this, and not so much on the,
Well, you know, my
you know,
agent said to me,
associations.
the town will be getting in touch with you.
When I bought my house,
That's what she said to me, the town will be getting in touch with you. Well, I'm still waiting for the town to get in touch with me.
when I bought my house, I did receive
It's been our practice to send a letter, we get something back from the registry whenever something in the district sells, and that's been our practice. We have had a standard letter. I will check and see if for some reason that stopped, but we have been doing that consistently for years. I'll check and let you know.
Okay,
I'd
thanks.
appreciate it, thank you.
Eric,
Yeah, when I bought my house in 2017, I did receive a letter after moving in. But I will say, although receiving the letter, I mean, maybe it was because I was younger and I wasn't paying much attention, but it didn't seem immediately clear what the implications of being the historic district were. It was, it was very nice and welcoming, but it didn't necessarily say like, go to this article in the ordinances to understand your responsibility as a homeowner or anything along those lines. I don't believe so.
thank you. It may be that the letter needs a look at.
Well, there may be, I think if in general, our regulations need to be looked at because, I mean, I too am a real estate agent, and oftentimes if you're selling something in a district, you are going to include the zoning, pertinent zoning to it, just so people to look at it. But if I were to get this, it still is really, it's not specific. When I'm reading the Durham, I'm reading the same article, 17, protecting and preserving structures, places, and properties that reflect elements of the culture, social, I've got my bad glasses on, so sorry, social, economic, and public heritage of the town, promoting preserve, restoration, rehabilitation, adaptive use, reuse of structures in place of historic architecture and community value, as well as vistas of significance, conserving property values, protecting and enhancing the attractiveness of the HDC and promoting the use of the HDC for education, pleasures, and welfare of the citizens of the town. So I think when you're going into there, I think you should say things you must be aware of. If you need to change windows, you must follow these guidelines. If you need to change railings, you must follow these guidelines. If you have rotted wood, you need to follow these guidelines. Because I think this could be interpreted in many ways. And I don't think that states, and that would be where people would go and read it. Because where are we saying, specifying what they can use? And I think that, for our zoning, we have architectural standards that are very specific. If you want to build, so you want to build a property in Durham, you have to follow these architectural standards. You bring it to the planning board, we have to make sure that you're following those architectural standards. You can't just build a building that looks, like George Jetson would live in it. It has to look a certain way. So, and there are very specific guidelines to that in our architectural standards. And maybe there needs to be repair and restoration standards that are written for the HDC. I mean, do we have anything like that, repair and restoration standards? Because that's where people would see it. And I think that is something that is needed if you want to go forward and to protect it. But at the point where at today, we don't have that, or I'm not aware of it, and Michael isn't aware of it. So until we have something like that, it is hard to enforce something on one property owner that's not being enforced, that has not been enforced on another.
Well,
in my opinion.
We do have standards. We have the Secretary of the Interior
That's not
standards.
adopted locally. That's what we need, is something adopted locally.
Yeah, it has to be in ours. It has to
So
be in our zoning.
in the ordinance, there's two different sets of standards. There's general standards, which we have adopted a minor variation of the Secretary's standards. It's the same 10 principles, it's just adjusted for Durham. We've adopted them in our own fashion. And then there's a lot of other specific standards dealing with proportions and fenestration, signage, etc. So what we have adopted is very close to the Secretary's standards. There are standards.
Does it specify window replacements and door replacements and things like that?
I mean, the language is pretty general, and it follows closely to the Secretary's standards. But all of the language there is general.
That's the problem.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, but there's other sections. The second section is fairly specific. That certainly could be enhanced. And also, the state law allows the HDC to adopt regulations. They're similar to the ordinance, but you actually adopt them unilaterally. It doesn't have to be a zoning amendment. And the intent of regulations is to have things like hardy board is acceptable, or it's not, or it's allowed only on front facades. So that's something you might want to consider, is coming up with some more specific standards that you could put in the ordinance, or you could put them in your regulations.
Thank you. Charlotte, go ahead.
Well, yes, I would like to, it looks as if the hardline preservation is likely not to be adopted here. And I would like to suggest looking at the idea that the facade windows, which would be the bays and whatever's in the attic, at the attic level above, should be treated as historic preservation and restored, whereas the windows on the sides might be allowed to go with vinyl. I wonder how other commissioners would feel about that.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify, Charlotte, because it was breaking up a teeny bit, you said that the windows on the front or the facade, these could be wood, but on the sides and back, where the other ones could be vinyl. Is that a fair summary?
Right, it's not what I would like to have happen, but I'm thinking of it as we're totally losing the integrity of our district when we take out the windows that are right on the front and everybody sees them from the sidewalk. And there are, a few, and there are some new buildings there which don't add to the district because they support people's impression that we're allowing vinyl. And so those new buildings that were built in 2015 are really doing a disservice to the integrity of our district. But aside from that, it would be nice to see the facade of the building remain historic.
Okay, thank you.
What is the client, what is the applicant?
Yeah, but what do you think about that, Jeff or Mr. Silva, in terms of wood in the front, the rest vinyl?
the bays and,
We'd like to keep it all vinyl. Just go right through it and do it.
Other comments, or?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the applicant's desire to convert to triple glazed windows with an exterior and interior grille that would be divided light for the 43 windows and not installing storm windows over the windows.
I'll second that.
Mike, can I just clarify? I didn't get it all down. The first part, can you just go?
That the applicant to remove the wooden windows and replace them with vinyl triple glazed windows with both an exterior and interior grille. Now, that interior grille, in my mind, can be embedded.
It's in the glass.
In the glass,
Yes.
right. Yeah, non-removable grille. And I'd like to make sure that's actually in the motion, that it's a non-removable grille, and not utilize storm windows over the replacement windows. You okay with it, non-removable?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and you seconded, Sally?
Seconded, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
Patent on the windows?
What, excuse me?
The patent on the windows, 2/2, 2/1?
I think that 2/2 or 6/6 would seem to be in keeping with the era of the building,
Okay, can we,
but I would be fine with both. Either, one or the other. Pick a pattern, stick with it.
okay, well, if you ask me, I'd go 2/2 then.
That was it.
You'll be a mullion
Yeah,
right
so
down the middle.
Yeah, because I think
I
they're
think
two,
that's
I think there's
1880s to-
2/2s.
Yeah,
There's 2/2s
everything except for
there.
way up in the third
Okay,
floor,
yeah.
there were some 6/6s.
And you, yeah.
Yeah, the 2/2 would be fine, by my motion.
Okay. Discussion on the motion.
Well, Larry, I have some questions. Are a number of the existing wood windows 6/6?
Yes, there are different, the ones on the third floor have a different pattern than the first and second floor. The second floor has a bay window on the side, which the top window has I'm not, it's either 6/6 or 8/1. All right, the
Are
third,
most of the full-size windows on the body of the house?
2/1. 2/1. The bay window out front, the bigger windows are 2/1. The flanker has no mullions in the flanker windows. They're only 23 inches wide.
Mike, I just wonder if you'd want to consider in your motion that they match the muntin pattern of each existing window. And the other question I have is, if there's, just to clarify, it sounds like the interior grille should be sandwiched in between the glass, not on the inside of the house, which could be removable.
Right.
And I just want to clarify that the outside grille, that it would be contoured.
Yes, not flat.
Yeah, but I mean contoured, it would have a profile, a shape.
Yes,
Not
not just a white piece of vinyl, flat vinyl, going down on the
Yes.
outside.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Mike, any trouble with?
Yeah, I mean, it's true that the ones on the cheek walls of that
Are what,
bay
are just single?
are 1/1, but I think, I guess I'd be okay with them being 1/1, but I think that 2/2 would be fine in that location as well. So I guess,
2/2 in the front bay, in the front base, and with the cheeks could be 1/1.
yeah, I mean, I personally think that following the,
Well, the variation,
Pieces.
really, the new windows should have the same pattern as whatever's existing. Each window should be treated
Yeah,
with the
okay,
divisions of the lights that match what's
They're-
there now.
yeah, 2/2, yeah,
We
so,
don't want to whitewash it and say, oh, we decide that it should look like 1925. or we decide it should look
Right.
like 1910. We need
Well-
to take the building as it is and treat it
Is,
with all the uniqueness of each window.
I'll take that friendly amendment that be consistent.
Replace whatever it
If
is
it's a
currently.
1/1 on those bays, that the flanking windows could be 1/1,
Yeah.
but
but the
just in
front,
that front.
the front ones have to be consistent, don't, because they're different. There's like, is that 4/1? Or, and then there's a 2/1?
It's hard to see through the,
I see 4/1 and I see a 2/1.
no, I think that's a storm window halfway up.
Oh.
And that's the problem with the
Oh.
storm windows and screens, is
Can't tell.
it's halfway up and it's, just,
And then the others, I can't see any.
yeah.
So
Is it all
pick,
2/1?
I would go with a 2/1
aren't they?
and stay with the 2/1. And then on the cheeks, you could do what's there, the one single thing.
Yep,
The ones, the ones in the attic, the third floor, okay?
Those look like,
Whether they're wooding or windows in today's market, the manufacturer only does certain things. So that's a 125-year-old window. They may not make that pattern if it's, I don't know if it's 8 or 6/1.
it looks like 8/1.
Yeah, I don't know, well, they should be able to do 8/1, but like, so whatever they're able to do,
Get as close to it.
I
right,
think they'll be able to do 8/1.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 8/1.
Oh, well, Mike, if I may, I would like to really recommend that you have them match the pattern for two reasons, as Charlotte said, and secondly, it'll just be confusing what the approval is. You might say they have to match the existing, and if they can't find it, then, I don't know, hope it wouldn't be a burden for a few windows to have to come back to another meeting.
Well, as somebody who's redeveloped properties, it's a huge burden to wait 2-3 months for
It's- yeah,
approvals.
especially when you're putting in,
When you're trying to deal with a deadline of move-ins. I guess there does seem to be somewhat of a hodgepodge of windows, but primarily it seems to be 2/1. I'm looking through all the different floors. Is that correct?
it is, yeah, you're right, that's the storm. So that's a 2/1, it's a 2/1,
And it's
Oh,
only
yeah.
the doghouse dormers on the
yeah.
top that have the 8/1
hard to see.
apparently. I don't have a good view, but
Those are 2/1 seems to be the consistent one. With the top, the attic ones are 4/1. Oh, excuse me, 8/1.
There's a walkway between the two houses, a public walkway. The second floor, there's a bay window out there.
yeah,
see
if
that
it could be
picture?
treated the same way as the
Treat
facade
them
ones.
the same
Yeah.
way.
Okay.
Because, I'm not gonna have a good view of that.
Just barely.
And it's-
Should we just say to replace with grills in kind to what's existing?
Yeah,
Just
so
a general-
essentially going 2/1 throughout, except for the cheeks of the bay windows.
They should be consistent.
Yeah, I do appreciate Charlotte's input on that. And she's right.
They would have been consistent in the
Yeah.
original building.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, so Mike,
Oh my God.
can we just?
Yeah, let's
we
get-
gotta bring back the,
Just,
exactly
Yeah,
the,
too many
So,
things.
I'll strike my former, whatever proposal. Motion and renew it with a motion to approve the removal of all wooden windows and replace them with white vinyl triple glazed windows
This one's restoration.
with an exterior and interior grill sandwiched grill
Here when they did it.
with a 2/1 pattern
Is that it?
and follow in all locations that previously had them and follow. Should I just say, are they consistent otherwise? They are
Yeah.
all 2/1s, right?
Yes, the first and second floor, all 2/1s, the ones that deviate are up in the third
With
floor.
following the existing pattern,
Yeah,
just following the existing pattern.
okay. And yeah, if there's any reason that couldn't be, do you have a,
I don't think there's gonna be a reason that.
Yeah, you think it'll be good? Okay.
Window manufacturers have put together just about anything.
okay. All right, so Sally, you
I second
good
this
with that?
study.
Okay.
Oh, can I ask one other question?
Yeah,
These I assume are going to be white. But I assume that's a dull white, because you don't want a bright white, because that really stands out.
There's only one white, the white vinyl, the chemical white vinyl.
It's only one white.
Yeah, I don't know as if there'll be much, you're pretty much white or black or, some people have cream, but that's pretty rare. I don't think you're gonna find too many shades of white.
You won't find any shades of white.
I expect they look like the other ones on the street.
Yeah,
Yeah, they'll be same white.
and they
Just match your white.
are white now.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to tell behind the storm windows. It's really hard to see them at all. Well, actually,
They're white, just a white shade of white.
yeah,
Yeah, let's let that
You
other-
might
they'll be dirty in no
be-
time.
Yeah,
we're doing
Oh,
green
that
here,
street
we don't
grime
have
on
to-
them.
it's the only white there is, Michael.
I mean, you can get it painted.
All right, any more discussion? We ready for a vote? Okay, Charlotte, I'll start with you.
Okay, I vote against, I vote
Okay.
no.
She's remote, so she has to
Yeah.
have her name.
Oh, yeah, can you say your name? Or she has to say her
Oh,
name.
Charlotte Hitchcock, I vote no.
Thank you, Charlotte. Mike, I'll go to you.
Michael Hoffman, yes.
Sally Tobias, yes.
I'll go to you.
Carolyn Singer, no.
Aaron.
Oh, yes, sorry. Aaron Wolfson Suppian, yes.
I'll vote yes. So the motion passes 4-2. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jeff. Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
Mr. Silva, you take care.
And if I could make one quick recommendation, I think that would behoove, not to you guys, but to everybody else. It would be a good idea if you start to really write something down and get something coded in the zoning that's more specific to what you really want and not, and create some kind of format.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I think you can bet that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you have to, you have to.
And it does, we can have rules, but our rules can't be just everything. They need to go be an ordinance, because otherwise, one body can't just decide that we're going to all have, whatever, cedar siding. We can't do that. It has to rise up to the level of the council approving it. And now we've got the teeth, truthfully, I've worked in other towns where, the building inspector, the requirements are so clear. The building inspector said, yes, 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 okay, here's your permit. They didn't have to go to the meeting because they met all the requirements right down the historical district list. It was really easy because it was very clear in their ordinance. It's just, do they have it or do they not? So it's a yes or no. But having it that clear makes it, that's what everybody wants.
I agree with you, but in
Yeah.
the absence of that,
Yeah.
I do think that we're losing track of what our job is really. And
But I'm just
preservation
going
is getting, the district is getting trashed.
But our ordinance gives us our marching orders, and it doesn't say the Department of Interior. It is, as Michael has mentioned, it's very vague. It tells you a lot about the district, but searching for windows, I came up with every single place where it said windows. Searching for wood, it said, never did it, mention, it said mostly wood siding, mostly wood, this and that, but it doesn't give clear guidance.
Well, there may be. I think we need to look through the records a little bit more carefully to see, because Nancy seems to think there was something written.
And yeah, as long as it gets adopted.
It's just as long as it's whatever's been, and then get it down in words, and bring it through the steps and bring it through the governing body, which gives it all the teeth you need, and that's how you go. This committee can create what it needs. Michael, you said they don't even have to go. Do they have to go through town? But, it might be the best thing that they go through planning board so that you get that vetted at that place, and then you go to the council, you get another vetting situation, and then it gets adopted. That's how it works.
Well, I think Michael said we can come up with our own resolutions. Isn't that correct?
As a commission?
Yeah, as the HCC, you can decide, we don't have any regulations now, but everything's in the ordinance, so everything went through the planning board, the council, whenever there was a change. But it's up to you. You can actually adopt your own regulations, usually they're about materials, you know, windows, siding, all of that. You can adopt them, and that's your policy, although you still have some flexibility, case by case. Or you can put them in the ordinance, which is a little firmer, a little bit less flexibility. But you can do either one, whichever you prefer.
I guess you know, we have on our work agenda to look at the ordinance. You know, I'm not comfortable with doing that unilaterally. It doesn't feel like we shouldn't be enacting things that should be in the ordinance through policies. Even if we found the policy Nancy referred to, I'm not sure it has the weight, the legal weight that the ordinance would. So if we did that, I would want a legal opinion to speak to that.
You'd want something that would held up if
Yeah.
they were to challenge it in court at the state level, and they probably would.
Yeah.
And-
Well,
and you
it
would
just feels
lose.
like we could take that to its illogical extreme.
Yeah.
And do everything through regulation and policy versus the way it was intended for the ordinance.
In a town not too far from here, the Historic District Commission was disbanded by the council because of some positions. So, and they just did away with it.
Yeah.
That was how it was handled, you know? So we don't want that to happen, then we lose all control.
Yeah.
Newmarket.
So, all right, so item 9, updates on projects, acting as the Heritage Commission. The first one is the update on the zoning amendments. We sent you a couple letters, one by Carolyn, one by Dennis Meadows. Michael, can you just clarify where they stand at this moment?
Right. There's been 2 amendments that I think have been of interest to the HDC. Another one about lodging houses that was rejected, but I don't think that had a particular interest. Although that could have had some effect on the district, but that was rejected by the council. The amendment dealing with multifamily or multi-unit residential in the Churchill District, courthouse, and professional office, which is much of the HDC because of the Churchill, that was adopted by the council about 2 months ago. And that allows multi-unit residential in Churchill and courthouse. It still has to follow the other provisions in the ordinance in terms of density, height limit, setbacks, etc. And of course, any new buildings, additions, alterations, demolitions, the HDC has total purview as you had before. The other amendment that's been before the council was in the Central Business District, which I think would only affect a couple of lots in the historic district. And the current ordinance has a limit in this portion of 3 stories. The westerly portion of central business is 4 by right, 5 by conditional use. And this amendment would remove the 3-story limit, make it the same as the westerly portion, 4 stories by right, 5 stories by conditional use. Interestingly, at the public hearing, I think it was last week, a lot of people came out, spoke against the change, and it looked like the council heard that and was poised to reject it, but then to have a discussion about, well, what do we want to do now in terms of heights and in terms of downtown revitalization. But they actually tabled it. I expect they're going to bring that back up at their next meeting, September 10th. And I think there's a very good chance they're going to reject it. I could be wrong. I think they will reject it. And then I think the council and the planning board are going to talk about what do we want to do, A, for height limits, and B, to help revitalize the downtown.
Okay, thank you. And so I know Carolyn and Dennis in their letters mentioned a reconsideration and the dates passed. Would anything happen at August 4th?
Oh, well, in terms of the ordinance that the council enacted with multifamily, they would not be able to just rescind that. They could revisit it if they wanted. But there was a state law passed a month ago that requires that every commercial zoning district must also allow multifamily. So we have to allow multifamily in professional office, Churchill, and courthouse. We may need to in Coast Corner, which is beyond. And then the planning board is also going to talk about whether we need to do that in outlying areas, Orly, et cetera, further to the west. But we would not actually be able to rescind that, to change that because of that state law. The only way you could do that is you'd have to remove the commercial uses from Church Hill, and then, then it could be removed.
Okay, as I understood Dennis's and Carolyn's letter was that the effective date is 2026. And there wasn't the urgency that some people portrayed
Well,
there was.
yeah, since I was involved in it through the whole thing, there was no urgency because of the state law. We really knew that there was a lot of state laws going about, some that thankfully did not make it through. But the reason why that whole, the multifamily in the Church Hill and in PO and courthouse happened was, and it wasn't a rushed thing. I mean, Todd Selleck first came to the Housing Task Force in August of '24 and asked us to come up with options to increase housing opportunities in the downtown. And at that point, we started talking about, well, how do you do it? Well, basically, there had been a few changes to zoning, but there had been some drastic changes that had stopped all building in the downtown. And so some of them had changed a little over the past few years, but if you're going to increase housing opportunity in the downtown, you first had to make it legal to actually do it. And so we started looking at the zoning at that point, and we started to talk about that in depth in January, talking about what can we do to increase housing density downtown. And of course, the allowing 3-story in our other business districts, other than the CB, because it's multi-unit, so that's 3 stories of residential only. There's no mixed use requirement. There's no commercial aspect. So looking at that, the easy looking at Church Hill was that's all that exists there anyways. Church Hill is all multi-unit now, and that multi-unit at over 55 was allowed by right already before we made the change of multi-unit with whether it's over 55 or not. So we just added you can do multi-unit for anybody, not just for over 55. And all of the student rentals are basically non-conforming. We've just made everything conforming. And to be quite honest with you, when you have 90% of your buildings in a district are non-conforming, that is a highlight that there's something wrong with that zoning. So we just made it what it already was. I know people are upset about it, but the reality is it doesn't change the status quo at all. The purview of the HDC is the same as it was. The height limits is the same that it was. And mind you, too, in that original 631, which is the House Bill 631 that passed, that enforces that upon everyone in the state now, the original amendment before it was changed, edited, was to allow by right heights of 50 feet. No, 60 feet. 65 feet by right. So
It would have been ridiculous.
yeah, it would have been ridiculous. But that was pulled out, and so it was just to allow 3 multi-unit, and that we could then create where, our other rules around it.
Okay.
So there was no rush, and I think what I read the letters, and I would say that most of the points are probably taken a bit out of context or not really understanding how the process went, but that is how it went. And when Paul Rasmussen got up there, he just read it, and he thought it was happening. He mentioned, this is retroactive. He was more concerned about all the other districts, like Coe's Corner. This 631 actually allows you to do that in Coe's Corner, right this, well, not this second, but in next July. We're just now doing something that will be enforced upon us in a year's time, in less than a year's time anyways, and there's not going to be much difference. But what we're going to be doing now going forward is we are going to be looking at all of our commercial districts, and especially we have some large ones like Orly and things like that. Well, we may want to make some changes because a lot of Orly actually should be in the rural zone. And you know, so there are some things that the planning board level is going to be looking at. But you would have to completely change the zoning for Church Hill at this point and make it residential. The problem with that, though, is that if you're trying to keep college students out of it, if you change it to residential, you're going to have to explain to the state how you're not discriminating against students, which are now a protected class thanks to another House bill that was also signed. College students are now a protected class in the eyes of the state of New Hampshire.
We just don't want them to vote here.
Exactly, exactly. So, there is another one that, I don't know, Michael, I don't know if you brought up to them, HB 399, that you may want to look up, which we discussed. I'm going to put on my glasses so I can actually read. It's terrible to get old eyes. HB 399, which is in effect right now, establishes a commission to study the historical evolution of the New Hampshire Zoning Enabling Act. And it is a commission, there is established a commission to study the historical evolution of New Hampshire Zoning Enabling Act, codified in the RSA. The legislative intent is to study the evolution of the New Hampshire Zoning Enabling Act as it turns its 100th year. The goal is to see how the New Hampshire Zoning Enabling Act has changed over time and consider and make recommendations for future legislation on the balancing of zoning powers between state and municipalities. So they actually have created a commission to evaluate whether the way we are allowing our municipalities to do zoning is going to be acceptable going forward, and the state may have more say, and the state has already shown it's sticking its nose into local zoning. And if you look at it, it's very one-sided as far as philosophy of government. So it's a little daunting.
Thanks, Sally. I don't know, Michael, I don't know if the council has our state representatives in. We used to do that once a year to talk about, I'm deeply opposed to the state of New Hampshire telling communities how to zone and plan their communities. The facade of local control, which has always been a facade in New Hampshire, is completely eliminated by that kind of stuff. Now, there might be some compelling reason occasionally to intrude on local control, but zoning is not it. And I don't know how our particular representatives voted on that, but I hope they didn't vote for the state takeover of local communities and their ability to zone.
I think that Durham's representatives are very attuned to the local control. I believe they've all supported that for the most part.
I will also say that Wayne Burton feels that given that there's going to be another legislative session, that it will get changed.
Okay, thanks. All right, so I assume our objection to the height thing, which is coming up in September again, still stands? Okay. All right. Bickford Chesley House and Wagon Hill Farm. Any updates there?
Yes.
Good.
It's moving along really well. It's taking shape. I'm still not sure if we're going to be done by November as planned, but we will. It's just moving along very nicely. I will say that we, the L-CHIP grant, the Moose Plate grant, and the town money is funding the rehabilitation of the building, but the gallery and its exhibit cases are being funded privately.
Yeah.
That was the deal. And I think because of a lot of Trump's removal of safety nets, I think a lot of funders we might have thought would support us are kind of waiting.
Yeah.
So we're going to be asking for more donations from the public. So
Okay.
just, try to support it if you can, because it's a good cause. Exhibit cases are expensive, but it's a great community asset.
Yeah, so I thank you, Carolyn. And it might be thinking about the best way to get that word out. I know the town updates, but I don't know even if we could do a little spot on the local access channel.
Oh, that's a good idea. And I did talk to Todd, and I am doing a more
Thank you.
aggressive ask.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for, Charlotte and Carolyn, thanks for your continued work on this. Clearly, a celebration is in order when it's completed.
It's really nice inside.
Yeah, it's, well, that leads us to the trust fund accounts. Deb sent us the information about the two accounts. One is the Historic Preservation and Cultural Resources, and the other is the one that Carolyn just referenced for Wagon Hill. So, any questions on what Deb sent us? Okay, more informational.
I just want to make sure everybody does, I think you and Charlotte had sent some, so do we know if everybody that's listed there has in fact received a thank you?
It doesn't look like there's anyone new since Charlotte and I did the cards.
Okay.
So, so I would say unless something happened to the mail, every one of these lists.
Okay.
We didn't include this, we didn't do this list.
You did not?
No, 'cause I'm not sure the fund, maybe the fund was created.
Okay.
So we can also.
Well,
thank-
and we'll have to figure out, because I looked up some of the names, and it's hard to tell where some of them live.
Okay.
There are several people by the same name in this area, so.
Okay. All right. Next item, item 10, is the 2026 Historic District Commission budget. I definitely have to put my glasses on for this. We got last year's approved budget, was Michael sent to us. We formatted a little bit differently. The town includes all the wage and stuff, but the primary ones we put forward are professional staff development, and then the contracted services and general supplies. Those are the three line items that we really are the one that we really deal with. So, and I know last year we might want to give examples of how we could spend the money. We don't have to obligate that we'll do X, but.
Well, don't forget, next year is, 2076.
Mhm.
And so I think we should, ask for actually a little bit more.
I'm trying to think, where did that, okay, general supplies, contracted services. Okay, maybe the general supplies, it's kind of a broad category.
Or can we say outreach activities
Yeah.
or something like that?
Yeah, maybe we can
Educational
yeah,
activities
yeah.
regarding the 250th anniversary.
Okay. So somebody just go down here. Professional staff development has been in at 800 since 2024. Contracted services, which we haven't, let's see, what have we spent? So that was in at 4,000, and that's been consistent since 24, 23, it was 3,500, so we upped it a little bit, 24. And that, obviously the roundtable facilitators, we paid out of that line item. If we had someone to come in and review either an application or like the proposed zoning amendments, that would be for that. So expertise that we don't have in-house, and I assume we would pay for that. And general supplies is what's paying for the signs and plaques. Caroline, did we ever put those sensors in Smith Chapel?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought we did. Okay.
We did, and they've been going for well over a year.
Good.
We downloaded them in December, and my husband's going to analyze the data, and I haven't asked them to do it yet.
Okay, good. So that's great. And those came out of that line item too. So things.
That's right.
More hard kind of materials and stuff. And I know we want to continue on with the sign program. So how do folks feel? Do you want to ask for what we've asked for last year? Do you want to increase it at all, given 2070, the celebration coming up?
It's the 250th.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Go ahead,
as a
Charlotte.
Result of tonight,
Can't hear.
We're losing you a little bit.
She's stuck. yeah.
Froze.
She
Oh,
froze.
you froze. Okay.
as a result, yeah, sorry, am I back?
You're back.
Yeah.
For now.
Yes.
So we had some conversation about the need to inform people living in the district of their responsibilities, and maybe we should devote some funding to
Yeah.
doing that better.
Okay. Yeah. And it sounds like that would come out of that
Useful
same
about it.
category, outreach, education.
Yeah.
Okay, so do folks want to, I wish Eric were here because he could give us the pulse. This is right at the beginning of the budget season, but
They've got a challenging budget season this year.
yeah. Of course, I've been around a long time. I don't know when there wasn't a
They've
challenge.
got a pretty
Yeah.
big
Well,
windfall
and
that-
the
yeah.
economy could really
Yeah.
tank. So how do folks feel? We've got 800 in for professional development, 4,000 for contracted services, and 3,500 now for general supplies, outreach, and education.
Can we just increase that to 4,500?
Let's ask for that. I mean, how do folks feel about it?
Ask for it.
Yeah, we'll ask for it and we'll try to explain why. And we're pretty frugal.
I mean, the other
Yeah.
thing is that, Wagon Hill Farm is going to be online
Yeah,
in 2026.
it's a great point.
And
And we want to be ready for that, but we don't know exactly what that might entail.
well, we want to have programming
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and so, we have to pay.
Okay, so we're going to ask for 4,500 and we're going to change this to general supplies and outreach and education. Okay, so that would be, but putting aside all the wage stuff, that would be 4,800, but it's 12,800. I think it's 13,300. I'll double check that for those three items. How do folks feel about that? Budget request. Can we get that as a motion, just so it's not...
I'll make a
just-
motion
Okay.
that we submit a budget for 13,300.
Great. And
Seconded.
second,
Yeah.
okay, any more discussion? All those in favor, roll call.
Roll call.
Charlotte, we'll start with you.
Yes, I vote yes.
You have to say your name.
Oh, Charlotte Hitchcock, yes.
Thank you.
Mike Hoffman, yes.
Sally Tobias, yes.
Larry Brickner Wood, yes.
Carolyn Singer, yes.
Aaron Olson Suppian, yes.
All right, passes unanimously, and I'll get a response back to Gail next couple of days. Okay. Report, I know this came up at a previous meeting, and it's a good idea, but report from, well, first, Michael, since you were voiceless when we came to the staff report, do you have anything as a staff report?
Thank you, Larry. No, nothing to report.
Okay. And then we wanted to add report from HCC members who serve on other boards and committees. You don't have to, but if there are things out there to give us updates.
I'll give, well, the planning board, I think I kind of gave you the most recent update. We've got a lot of things that we're looking at, and last night we did go over some of this new state regulations that will be affecting our zoning and all of us. So, and there is a lot, and it was a significant rise this year in getting into municipalities' business. But people should know that if they have any discussions about student rentals, they need to probably keep that a little quieter because they are now a protected class and it will not serve anyone well to be doing that. Housing Task Force, we have finished our suggestions for zoning changes to make more zoning housing opportunities across the board in the town. A couple of them of our suggestions have already been covered by the state. One of ours was the town allowed accessory dwelling units by right that had to be attached to the building, and we wanted that to be attached and detached as well. So a standalone unit, and we were recommending that, and then the state, that's one of the things that state just did pass, that you can have a accessory dwelling unit, one, either attached to your building. I don't know if the weird door is still there or not, though.
That's a stupid.
Yeah, I don't know if the weird door is there anymore, which would be a fire hazard. Anyways.
It is.
But also they're allowing a detached unit, so you can allow one, though you still have to follow the rules of the town. I think you can up to 950, was it, as far as the state is concerned, Michael? 950.
Maximum 950.
Yeah, that's the max. Durham is at 800, I believe, or
Oh yeah, 850.
850. Yeah, Durham is at 850, and that's probably going to stay 850. And the other one was, one of the other aspects of our zoning recommendations is to allow multi-unit housing in our industrial zones. In our commercial zones, of course, that would have been Church Hill, which has already been taken over by the council and by the state, but also looking out at Orly, Moudor, and the Route 108. But we're probably going to need to look at, especially the Orly system for that, as to where it would be appropriate for that. So those are probably going to be coming to the planning board for vetting through that process in October. There's a lot going on, but you can see them online. You can go on. Are the new recommendations on the housing task force? I didn't see them on there. On that site.
They're on the planning board under current projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we could stick them under the housing task force too, because some people may go there, and I know the old ones are there, so it could be confusing. But you could go.
I'll make sure
yeah,
they're there as well.
You could go to the planning board and take a look at some of the things that we're suggesting. And that's it. We're going to the council on the 8th to talk about what they want us to do next, if anything, because we did have an end date of, I believe it was May of 25, and so we're deciding, we kind of run our course, and we're ready to, like, we're a task force, we're not a committee. We'd like to kind of, move on or do what they would like us to do next, but we don't know what that would be.
Okay. Thank you, Sally. Thanks for your work on the task force. Just a question to Michael, or you, the impetus for what I'm calling the takeover of municipal planning by the state government, is that coming from conservatives or liberals? It would typically be a liberal thing in my world that I've grown up in, but I don't think that's the case.
It's coming more from what would have been considered the conservative party in the olden days. There's a lot of Free Stater influence.
Yeah,
going on.
but I thought the Free Staters didn't like government, so their dictation of what local governments can do, one, is not a libertarian philosophy, but secondly, it's deeply upsetting, and it's a terribly slippery slope.
None of it's making any sense.
Once they get into involve, why not run the police department? Why not run the public works? I just think it's terrible, and the fact that conservative-minded people are doing it, I just find it, I just find it, irresponsible, and I hope we can stop it.
Yes, it's coming from the I'm just speaking frankly, coming from the Republican Party, and I think it's driven by a libertarian and free state impulse. If you look at the statute that Sally referred to, all of the people except maybe one or two are appointed by the Republican leadership. So I don't think we're going to see a balanced debate on this topic. And I think where it's coming from is they would really like to roll back a lot of zoning and local regulation. It's a real potential concern.
Yeah, so they need to go back to their roots. And, all right, thanks. That's what I thought, but it's again, my long lifetime, it's just completely flipped everything on its head.
It did have bipartisan co-sponsorship.
Yeah.
There are a couple Democrats, but
Yeah, well, I know some Democrats voted to not let us call it Indigenous Peoples' Day. So I don't know if folks know that, but some of our liberal members voted to support that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Now,
that's
it was in a bigger bill, but they,
Okay, interesting.
Well, it is important to understand that not all Democrats think the same, not all Republicans think the same, and I've had this drilled into me, and I tend to get a little bit on it because I am a Democrat, and I also, when we lived in California, was a homeschooler, and I belong to a Christian homeschooling group because I actually am a Christian as well. And I had one person say, "What? You're a Democrat? I didn't know Christians were allowed to be Democrats."
well, they
So
are in my
I
house.
took that as a like, wow, okay, so not everybody thinks the same and people have different perspectives, but yeah.
Yeah, I just have a belief in local.
I'm a unicorn.
All right. Any other reports from any other liaisons or reps on any other committees?
Oh, land stewardship.
Yeah.
Gail and Sally Nadell came at some point and wanted to collaborate with us.
Oh, yeah.
And so we'll probably pick that up in late September.
Great.
So
That's
we're
great.
trying to get it so that there's some, I'd like to see a program a week at Wagon Hill Farm for various audiences.
That would be wonderful, actually. It's, yeah. Thank you, Carolyn. Other business?
I have something quick as a kind of a follow-up to some of the window conversation. At my job at Chimberg, we do a lot of historical preservation and restoration of mills specifically, much of which is partially funded by grant money from the National Park Service and therefore must abide by their standards. And we hire a consultant named Chris Beard. She owns a company called S6 Preservation Consulting, and she has just excellent insight into those standards and how to approach them and how to enforce them and the expectations of the Park Service, et cetera. So if we're looking for an expert in the field to come educate us or whatnot, I think that she's a great option.
Do you know where she's out of?
I have her website up.
Okay, yeah. Great.
Newbury, West Newbury.
Okay,
So relatively nearby, and yeah, she's an excellent resource and decades of experience. So
great. Thank you. Any other business?
yeah, just questions. If somebody wants to get married at the Smith Chapel, who do they contact?
I think the town clerk,
Town clerk?
yeah, in fact, with weddings specifically, yes. You got to go to the town clerk anyhow, usually for their license. And they may also bring in Public Works. I know when
I think they do bring in public
Yeah,
works.
we used to use it. We had kind of a carte blanche for about 5 years to use it. And we worked, at the time was Mike Lynch, and they even gave us keys and stuff. But yeah, I suspect they'd go to Rachel and then go to Public Works to, particularly if it's not weddings, particularly if it's some other
That might be
function.
another, I don't know, what you call it, field trip, site tour, whatever.
Yeah,
There's one scheduled, there's one being scheduled.
okay, good.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's an amazing structure, and it probably is underutilized, as that letter we recently got said.
Yeah.
All right, any other business? It didn't say questions, Mike, but I'll let you have that one.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Made,
Second.
seconded, it's not debatable. All those in favor? Oh my
Oh,
goodness,
it's
got to do a
gotta
roll
be.
call. Charlotte, let's go. I heard it, yes.
Yeah, I heard that.
Michael Hoffman, yes.
Sally Tobias, yes.
Larry Bricknerwood, yes.
Carolyn Singer, yes.
Aaron Wolfson Slepian, yes.